Let's go through the slide deck. Should take about 5-10 minutes here. So our agenda, we're going to build that engagement. And I really wanted to stress with everyone that doing an engagement is actually a has two pieces, the engagement itself, and then creating the automation to send that engagement or survey out to your candidates or contacts. So when building engagement, we have a number of fields we can add in. So these go from date fields, single line text, if you want to give your candidate kind of a personalized message. We can do choose a single answer. So this is usually like a yes, no answer. We use this a lot with knockouts, multiple answers. We have net promoter scores. We have having the candidate upload a resume, and we have other fields that we can add into the engagement. So here is where we all add these different types of fields. We can also, not on that screen, we can also add branching. So if you had an answer that you want you to break off your candidates and send them down a different path, we can do that, and I'll show you how to do that. We can also do something whereas we could jump to the end of the survey. So if a candidate answers a question that is critical for your business or critical for this position, and they say, no, I don't know that, or no, I can't do that, we can jump them to the end of the survey and say, hey, thank you for your time. We'll consider you, and kind of push them out of the survey. We can also take any information that the candidate adds to your survey, and we can add it to your ATS. So if you have something like you're asking, what's the best phone number to contact you at? You could feed that over into a field over onto the ATS. Um, if you wanted to add in a question saying, hey, would you like monthly emails, informational emails from us? We could add you could use one of the fields over in the ATS, kind of build that. So when you're building your monthly sends, informational sends, you could put in, did they want this? Yes, no, and only pull in the people on your list who wanted this type of thing. We can also add all answers to a OneNote. So a recruiter could just very easily pull up a OneNote piece under the candidate's profile, review it, and see, all the information right there for them. We can also do things such as branching your survey. So if you have a authorization to work, say, are you authorized to work in the United States, the UK, your country? If they say yes, we could have them go down and continue to get other questions. If they say no, and this is what you would consider a knockout question, we can jump this right to the end and kind of end it for that candidate. So we're not really wasting their time and your recruiter's time, having them answer further questions. So the part two of this will be, we've built the engagement. Now we just need to market it and be able to send it out to our candidates. And so that's the point where we'll go in and we'll build an automation with a candidate email send, and I'll show you how to connect your engagement to that automation so that then you can pull your list of candidates and just be able to send that out to them. And this is simply using within the automation the send engagement step. And again, I will show you in just a few minutes how we're going to build that and how to utilize that. And we also have with your engagements, how do you want your candidates to see this. So one, we can do the standard email survey, but we could also do a chat survey, which would send the candidates to your web page and pull up a chat agent and have them ask the questions there. So it seems to be um, more of a easy flow through the chat survey. But both primarily work the same way. They're going to give them the same format. The format's a little bit different. The same questions and the same um, uh, ability to answer back, and the same ability to write to the ATS with either option. All right, and this is just again on the automation, how to choose between the survey, the chat, and the delivery method. And we'll go over that. And a number of our clients will send out this engagement either as a email or a text, or you could do both. So depending on how your candidates like to get this information, we can send them both a text and a email. And then here we just have simply the messaging on how to present this to your candidates. All right. So let me stop sharing with this and let's jump over to automation and let's actually start jumping in and um, building building the engagement. All right. So here is our engagement section. And let's just start from the beginning. We'll add an engagement from scratch. This is going to be a candidate-based engagement. And we are going to call this promise questions. And for our engagement, we're going to choose a survey. Now, we could do a chat screener. This is still kind of being in the testing stage. So for the time being, if you see screener, let's just kind of ignore that and let's concentrate on these two. So we're going to do kind of what we would do a standard survey. When we open this, it starts us off with the beginning and the end. You know, hi, first name. Can you fill out these questions? These are both editable. So you could go in here and you could update and put your own verbiage in here. The same with the thank you. You could put your own verbiage in here, save it, and kind of customize it to how you want to send this to your candidates. So let's go in and let's do our first question. So let's do a simple uh, single line text, and this would be something that we are going to just, excuse me, not a single line text, my mistake. We want a statement. So we could also put in a quick statement. Um, uh, so we could put in just a simple statement that helps clarify what these types of questions are. When the candidate goes through, they'll see, hey, here's just kind of a basic information. Hello, can you fill out these questions? Something about the questions. let's go ahead and do our first question here. And we're going to do a one answer question. We're going to do, um, we're just going to put in a quick thing. Hey, are you eligible to work in my country? And we can put in yes, no. We can put this to a specific field. So if you have someplace that you are collecting, are you able to work in this country? We can utilize that, and that will send it straight over to the ATS and hold it in the candidate's profile. We can make this required so that when they come in, they have to answer this. And we can also choose how they're going to see this. So we can have buttons, we can have drop downs, we have radios, and I'm actually going to rebuild this a couple of times and show you the different options. So let's do buttons and save. Now, let's just build that again. And this time we're going to do a drop down. I'm not going to make it required. And again, we'll put in yes, no. I'm not going to require this again, just for sake of time. And let's add it one more time. And this time we will do the radios. So there are, three different ways we can create this, and I'll show you this because everything that you build in here, we can go into the test survey and see how it works. So let's add a couple other fields. Let's add a date field. And this could be when you start this position. And we can put in and save it right to the candidate date available field. So we can put that right over into there. We can save. Let's add in, let's add in a number field. Just kind of ask, what they are looking for, and that'd be a money field. Um, let's add a knockout question. Let's again use one answer, and we can branch off this. Let's say this position, let's say this is a position in which they're using machinery, in which they need to be 18 years of age of old or older. And let's see, can we put this? I do not have. Don't have an age field, but we can again put this in, I guess. No. All right. So let's branch off from this. And we can go ahead and select add branch. And let's say the answer is yes, then we're going to send them down that branch. Let me see here. I also want to put add no. So on the no, we're going to take this and we're just going to jump to the end. And this is how you would branch. If the candidate comes in, answers yes, they'll continue on. If they answer no, we'll jump right to the end of the survey. And let's add just one more quick thing. Let's add a upload resume. And this will just be in here. Can you update your resume? That's all you'll need to do. Um, you will have to set this up in automation. You can just put a ticket in if you are not set up to upload a resume to your ATS. In your ATS, you will also have to have the resume parsing set up. But considering if you've already have your resume parsing set up in in the ATS, then the resume setup will be a very simple process for automation to do. All right, let's take a look at our survey and kind of take a look at how it looks. You've done all this work. Let's see how it looks on your site. And somebody changed this on me. Give me one moment. Our settings. My apologies. I forgot to take a look at this. Within the survey settings, this is where you can add everything to a note type onto the candidate's profile. We can go in and we're going to use pre-screen to add those notes. This is where we can set the web page that this will go to. We can make, if we wanted to, these responses confidential. We can send notifications to your candidate owner after each completion. We can also send out a CSV once a week to a group of people or to an email address that shows everyone and all the answers that they've made. So let me hit save on here. Now I can go into the test survey. And there we have it loading up. So here is our top question, our top statement of hi, can you fill out these questions? The questions are basic and to be added to your profile, the next button. We can go and we can see that this one is required as we have, are you eligible to work in our country? We've got a yes, no button. We have to answer. So let's hit let's hit the no, the yes. Go on to the next one. We have this showcase our drop down field where we can say again, yes, no. And this shows our simple buttons of yes, no. So all of this is collecting the exact same data. It's just you get to determine how you want your candidates to see this data. Now, if we select no, we'll simply jump to the very last screen that says, thank you for your time. So I'm not going to quite do that. We're going to go into here and hit yes. And that will branch us. And this will give us, when can you start this position? let's call it June 14th. And again, this information will be fed back to the candidate profile. What is your hourly requirement? Let's go $20 or 20 pounds. Here again, we have are you at least 18 years of age or older? We'll just say yes. And then here is the upload for your resume. So all they have to do is click upload. They can go in, grab it from their phone. They can grab it from where they've got their resume, and they can upload it right up. And this will just send it over to the ATS. And then at the end, we just have our submit button, and it gives you that thank you. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment and just check and see, does anyone have any questions? All right. Let me take a look here. So for the link on your website for Lauren, uh, I would consider more utilizing maybe a text, and then we could do a chat instead of having it go in this way. Um, and sent out. I can give a example of the NPS survey. I can go ahead and build that in just a moment. Uh, does the chat require enterprise automation package? Is also on corporate. I am not quite sure on that question. I believe it's the chat is open for everyone, uh, but I'm not 100% sure. Can you also show it as an email as well as a text? Absolutely, and I'll show you how to build that in your automation. Uh, Mandy was just one of the people that's in our system. Usually what this will do is when testing, it grabs kind of the last opened or last utilized candidate. So it'll just kind of grab a random name out of your candidate base and say, let's use that person. Probably as a number, I could have used a dollar or a pound field more instead of instead of that number field. So maybe for the number field, we would have wanted to use like number of years of experience you've had it in this field. All right, Nicole, when you create an engagement survey and or pre-screen questions, can can you apply it to multiple candidates? Yes. So yes, and we can send this out to a large number of candidates. You can have multiple candidates go in, answer these questions, and yes, you can create a template on this. So let's say that you are in the medical field and you are sending out a LNA survey. You could create an entire survey built basically around the basic requirements that you are looking for in an LNA, and you could build this out. All right, let me share my screen again just for a minute here, and let's take a look, and we'll do an NPS in here. So NPS wouldn't really be used in a kind of a pre-screen piece, but maybe more of you've sent a candidate and they've applied to a job, maybe talked to the hiring manager, and you wanted to know how that went for them. So we could definitely put a um, or they've been working for you, and we can do a net promoter here. So again, we can put this in. How likely are you to refer? And you'd update your company's name to a friend or a colleague. You could do a score between 1 and 5. or 0 and 10. And low score, you have very unlikely, high score, very likely. You can also again save this, and you could make a net promotion screen field in here so that you could put that out onto your contact. But again, it just depends on how you would like to do this. So we can put this in. Let's hit save, and here you have your net supporter piece, your NPS. And let's just take a quick look at this. I can run through this real quick. Next, yes, next, skip, 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 no, next, boom. And there's how it would look. And here again, this verbiage is updatable by you, and your candidate just can come in and say, hey, here you go. You can also follow this up with maybe asking an open-ended question of, why did you put this? Why did you give us the score that you did? And you could kind of pull some details from them. All right. Let me go back in question and answers. Um, so Nicole, yes, they can, but it also depends on how you build the automation. So if you send out the automation and say, yes. So I guess the easier answer is yes. As long as they've got that link is good for a certain amount of time, they could go in and re-update if they made a mistake on the question or wanted to update some of their information. So the maximum number of candidates in a mass email survey, we can send. I mean, you could put a list of 50,000. Would I recommend that? No. And when we go into the automation, I'll show you that we can actually break it down so that you could have 50,000 candidates in your list, and you could send out, say, a smaller chunk each day. So each business day, you could send, say, the first 10,000 and then the next 10,000, so that you're not, creating any issues sending out a mass amount of emails out of your system all at once. The link is configurable to a degree. I believe it's available. Um, I believe it's available for like a 4 hour or 5 hour. I think once they click on it, they're allowed to go back into it a couple of times. You can see within the metrics responses, you'll be able to see within here the candidate name, whether they finished it, if they came back in and tried to do it again, um, and that sort of thing. So you can see it here. I think my best way to answer that is I think they can continue to go back in and update their answers until they submit. Once they submit, I believe that closes the survey for them. So I think that's the better way to talk about how long it's available. So as long as they are in the did not complete it, did not hit that submit button, I believe they can go back in, update their questions, update their answers, and that sort of thing. Yes, you can do the batch sending. Lauren, you can do the batch sending as well with SMS as well as email. And I'll show you that in our automation piece. All right. Looks like the questions are kind of are slowing down a bit. So I'm going to go into um, I'm going to go into our automation, and we will get that we will set up something for, uh, okay, so Jamie Salt, can uploaded CVs be automatically parsed? Yes. So any um, resume that is uploaded, if you're set up on the ATS side, it will parse it. Now, when we send a resume from automation to the ATS, it works pretty much in the same way. Um, if they have an existing email address, it'll just be added to that profile. If it is a new email address, then it will parse it and create a new profile. All right, let me jump into my automation here, and I'm going to start sharing my screen again. All right, so let's add an automation. We're going to add a candidate-based automation, and we're going to call it Thomas pre-screen questions. All right, so let's start with saying that if you have a large number of candidates that you want to send this out to, but you do not want to stress your the email system sending out, we can do a staggered start. So let's again say you have 100,000 candidates on your list, just a large number. We can sit there and say, we're going to break this into 10 even groups. So with that, it will break it up into groups of 10,000 and send those out over a 10-day period. So from here, what we can do is do a send engagement. We can send a survey, which is again that email piece. We can do a chat. We're gonna concentrate today on the survey, and we'll go in and grab my pre-screen questions. The delivery method can be email or text message. Our first one, let's do an email, and we're just going to grab from a template. All right. Um, Questions. From here, it's as simple as setting up a normal engagement. We're just going to do it from the candidate owner. The engagement right here will show which one we're looking at. Hit save. This gives us, again, it's a standard piece. We can delete this block. Here is our first question and the take survey link. That's in HTML over here. We can play around. We can add things into here. We could, if we wanted to, say, uh, survey. This is where you put your marketing in. This is where you put your information. You can add your information in here if you want that to reach out. And again, I know a lot of people have already done pre-screen, engagements and probably have built things of this nature. So this is all pretty much your standard setup and your standard marketing piece to send this out to your candidates. So let's hit save. And then let's go back and let's say that not only do you want to send this out to via email, but you want to make sure you're getting everyone on that list, especially if it's 100,000 candidates. So we could go back in, send another engagement. Again, we're going to use the survey, and we can do it as a text message and do it from scratch. From the candidate owner, send it back to the candidate owner, save. And here is their survey piece in here. So you can put in your owner, your information, and your marketing verbiage. Boom. So, and let me jump into Q&A for a minute here. With a staggered start, can you adjust the amount of time between each groupings? So no. Um, it's pretty much a per day send. Um, because again, we're kind of looking at a large number of records. You can go back and you can determine uh, how long in your automation, because these are going external. You can set, when during the daytime that that these records are being sent out. So you could do from 9:30 a.m. to the end of your day. You could do a half day. Again, if you're sending out a large number, we recommend at least a 4-hour window here. Uh, and then the staggered start, we can't really adjust it to say, hey, send X amount during the first part of the day and the second part of the day. It's done by a daily. So this would be a daily send. All right. So that's about it. Again, we can, send this out. We can put our end automation here. Um, any other questions that I can answer? So let me take a look in our piece here. So Nicole Berger, essentially, can you create a template that can be sent to multiple candidates? Yes, yes, we can. And again, I believe that deals with our piece here. So if you had welding people, if you had, I think I used my first example was LNAs or different types of nurses, doctors, technical positions, you could put that into a screen, into this pre-screening question, and create different engagements and send them out to different groups of people. Shelley, Uh, I want to send an NPS survey after a candidate's start date to all candidates that were sent to the client. Would I be able to do that under the candidate and automation? I was thinking I'd have to do it under submission. So yes, you could create either. So after a start date is utilizing the placement start field. So you could create a placement engagement, and then with your automation, and let me just go over here. Let me share my screen again. Oh, I'm still sharing my screen. Perfect. Let me go over here and let's do another quick engagement here. Add automation. Let's say that is a placement. You can use center on a date field and on their start date. So we could create this. You'd have your placement based engagement. You could put in the start date. You could put a wait step of 2 weeks, and then you could send out this engagement for your candidates and collect that NPS score and any other information that you wanted. Would that only include candidates that got the job or all that were sent? So if Shelley, your second part of your question, would that include only the candidates that got the job? So they would have to have a placement to utilize the start date. You could send out an NPS to anyone, and again, that would just be maybe candidates and using a status. maybe you have a negative status that they were put on, and you could send like a warm follow-up email, and then also with the NPS. So yes, you could market that towards your candidates that did not receive the position um, easily enough. Okay. Uh, can you put a link on your, okay, Lauren, can you put a link on to an engagement on your website instead of having to send it through an automation? Unfortunately, no, you cannot, Lauren. Our system is sort of based on sending this out to your candidates in one way, shape, or form. Again, I would look at and kind of play around with the chat version, because with that, you could send, say, a text, and instead of opening up like this, it would have like a little chat piece right here. And this would be your website, have a little chat piece right here in which the client, the candidate could answer the questions. But again, unfortunately, we've either got to send out that in a text format, or text messaging, or an email based. Tom Kitson, when I use a parser, it creates the record using a generic parser account. And this is hard for teams to know who owns the record once in Bullhorn. For example, different teams have different automations. Can one automation parse a candidate and mark it differently to another automation from another automation? We do not have that ability, Tom. So unfortunately, we utilize one email address, parser address on your ATS. We can only set to one, and all candidates go to there. You could set up an automation notification so that when any new candidate are added, say you could use the date added by, pull them in, and then send out a notification to all of your users saying, hey, this person is brand new in the system. Who owns them? You could put some type of automation to do that. Unfortunately, what you're talking about of doing um, a generic, again, we use a single parser account, and we can't use multiple. Uh, for Colleen, again, on the answers, the staggered start, can you adjust the amount of time between each grouping? Again, not really. I think I went over this, and it's primarily within a 24-hour period. But if you want, and you wanted to, if you wanted, I would suggest putting in a ticket and maybe having a feature request put in, and you can ask that through your account manager, and just have them put in a feature request for you to say, hey, this is a great idea. To help our needs, we would like it to be able to be a 24 or an 8 hour or something of that nature. And maybe product would review that and take a look at that. All right. That looks like the last of the questions that we have in the Q&A. Oh, all right, Charlotte, could you send out automations on different days so have it staggered in that way? Yes. So within your automation, we can go into the automation settings, and you'll see here we have which days should the messages be allowed to send. So maybe you only want it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You could click these off, and these, as candidates come through the list, they would only be sent on these days. You could also, if you didn't want to use the staggered start, maybe limit your time. Again, I would always suggest having at least a 4 hour period. So we could update this and say to let's say 1 o'clock, 9 to 1, to only send during that time. It would stop on Monday, skip Tuesday, and then resend between 9:30 and 1 on Wednesday. All right, Tom, is there anything on your roadmap about having client automations? So, Tom, is this more of a company records? I mean, rather than client context. So, yes. Um, Tom, I need a little bit more clarification. Are you talking about sending like an internal engagement to maybe your own recruiters or your own team members, or to client contacts? Because for client contacts, we can create a contact-based engagement and send them out to your client contacts.